y amigos of Radio Azteca, programa número 10. Esta es su estación para todos que es grueso. Folks, we're just about as much amazed as you, but this is your announcer, Bram Stoker, with Radio Azteca, program number 10. Bram Stoker. This podcast is brought to you under the auspices of the Norwegian Institute for the Propagation of Powerful Long Emissions, NIPPLE. It may not be copied, rebroadcast, or retransmitted without the express written consent of NIPPLE. If you'd like a transcript of this program, just write everything down on a piece of paper. Once again, we'd like to thank all of our relays who take all the cancers, thanks to the North American Pirate Relay Service and to the unknown dealers. You know who you are. We'd also like to take note of the demise of KHC, who has pulled up stakes and relocated to other pastures. Hopefully, Radio Azteca may someday have another relay in that part of the planet. Thanks mucho again, guys. Send your mail for Radio Azteca to DVS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. If you have a comment about our programming, rest assured that we will treat it in the light of the strictest Radio Azteca editorial standards and respond accordingly. If you have DX tips, get them removed by a competent practical nurse. If you have questions for Dr. Radio, be sure they are phrased in the appropriately gross but tasteful technical terms that we have come to accept here at Radio Azteca. If you just want to shoot the bull, be sure the farmer is occupied pumping his wife. And of course, we will submit all reception reports for QSL to our tough-ass, excruciatingly detailed report review committee.
Have you ever seen such cruelty?
While we're at it, we'd like to congratulate Charlie Loudenboomer on his second anniversary of Pirate Radio Boston. We're just about a few months away from that milestone ourselves here at Radio Azteca. As has been our tradition over the past 16 years, our first feature today will be our mailbag, Mail Scrotum. We love to get mail and read all the silly shit that you folks send to Radio Azteca. Rest assured that we will assume our usual arrogant and condescending attitudes and turn all your serious comments into prime Radio Azteca fodder.
What are you trying to prove here anyway?
Only that people really do write to us. Michael Schmale of Reading, Pennsylvania, takes the lead in the beating a dead horse category by receiving his fourth Radio Azteca QSL. Michael wants to know if there was anything he could have added to his report to make it more useful to me. Michael, you obviously have not been paying close attention. How many times do we have to ask you folks to send in the names and addresses of your bountiful female acquaintances?
You've got to quit chasing girls and get yourself a job.
Paul Croat of Hartsburg, Missouri, was the lucky recipient of Radio Azteca QSL number 100. Has endeared himself to these hallowed halls by sending us several articles of exotic clothing from Fredericks of Hartsburg.
You're the most mixed-up man I ever saw.
Paul, you're truly a warm and warped person, and we hope that you receive all the attention you deserve. Sorry, shut that damn window. It's going to get wet in here. Paul adds another comment, which surely could be the basis of an insightful Radio Azteca editorial comment. Paul notes that I do not consider pirate radio at its best to be a bunch of kids belching and farting into a microphone. Actually, we think that stuff is pretty funny, especially if you've been listening to Radio Outhouse lately. Paul wrote again. Paul apparently has a lot of time on his hands, correcting our ignorant pronunciation of his dog's name, which is Cavil, not Caval. Shut that damn window! Watch out! To prove it, Paul sent one of Cavil's kicks, entombed in a piece of tape. Paul, that's the very first kick we've ever received here at Radio Azteca, and we'll cherish it forever. Michael Folk of Valley Hills, Kentucky, says that our strength was S7, but diminished at the end. Well, that's pretty much the way it goes with old folks. Michael, they diminish at the end. Kirk Trummel of Springfield, Missouri, sent the requested excruciatingly detailed reception report, but neglected to note for the frequency. And, of course, you all know what that merits, a Radio Azteca rejection card. Kirk is my kind of guy, as he notes that when not DXing, he collects fossils and chases women on the weekend. Kurt, when you get older, you can combine these activities and save a lot of time. You don't shut that damn window, I'm going to get electrocuted. Where in the hell did that guy with the flute come from, anyway? Mary Ann Kehoe of Atlanta, Georgia, writes the kind of reports we like to get. You'll be hearing more from Mary Ann later in the program. Mary Ann, what's this Dear Friends crap in your opening? She heard our Culpville SWL Festival Program Especial, for which a QSL has been issued. As for the other matters she reported on, a rejection card has also been issued. Mary Ann also included some items which we interpret as a pass.
Listen, you better cut that out.
Old Bram promises not to file harassment suit.
We're close on this one. I can feel it.
Randy Ruger of Brandon, Florida, our first report from Florida, stretched the limits of what anybody interprets as skimpy details. Considering the apparently wonderful reception conditions we experienced, we found enough proof to issue a QSL card.
Which all goes to prove that a determined man can always get what he goes after.
Listen, if you don't shut that damn door and get that rain out of here, we're all going to get electrocuted. Thank you very much. Hey. Rob Keeney of Overland Park, Kansas writes, seems we've been getting quite a lot of reports lately from your part of the world. Is one of you guys relaying Radio Azteca and not telling me? Rob managed a rejection card last time, so we took pity on him this time. Michael Page of Raleigh, North Carolina, says that our program number 9 was, quote, distasteful, rude, disgusting, and obnoxious. And he adds, which is why I liked it. Glad to see that we're getting through to you people. Bud Stacy of Satsuma, Alabama, a suburb of Tokyo, gets his third Radio Azteca QSL and now has all 3 types that we currently have available. Bud gave several lame excuses for not listening to the whole program, including having to go coach a softball game. However, we were particularly attracted to his statement that, quote, I was exhausted from the baby's arrival just a couple of days previous. But I don't read the National Enquirer, but I'm reasonably certain that NBC News would have carried the story about you having a baby. John Arthur of Belfast, New York, checked in with 2 reports and wants to make sure that we pass them on. John, that's what we do best around here. Rest assured that those greetings you want passed on will be so passed. John says that he will reject a rejection. Now, by golly, that might be a first. A rejection by a listener. I don't have one of those. Well, old Bram's bag is empty again. Time to go pump it up.
Bram, why do you think that to yourself?
I don't know. I guess it feels good. Send us those reception reports and all those insightful, gross but tasteful remarks that we love here at Radio Azteca. Send those reports, 3 mint stamps, and a detailed list of your sister's habits and sizes to DBS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. This is Radio Azteca, one of America's gross national products.
That's your greasy little face up next to the radio because it's time for America's favorite radio program, Animal Stories. And now here is the Animal Stories Blue Team Anchorman. Uncle Lair and him. His person, little Tommy. Hi, Tommy. Good morning, Uncle Lair. Good morning. Crazed woodchucks attack toilet seats. We're going to have an animal story quiz on this. Good, Tommy. Seems that there's this place in Fort Wayne called the Fox Island Nature Preserve, and they got a bunch of woodchucks there. What's going on is these woodchucks getting into the outdoor toilets. They're at the Nature Preserve and eating toilet seats. Is that kinky or what? Yeah. Okay, time for animal story quiz. This quiz has 2 parts. You have to get both of them correct to win this new diamond. The first one, I want to give you a time limit. I know you'll get this first one right. Okay. A woodchuck is synonymous with what? It's another name for what animal? It's like a groundhog, that family. Groundhog, that's right, little Tom. Now, the second question is a little tougher. Yeah. Why do you think these woodchucks would be eating these toilet seats? How much wood can a woodchuck? So you have 5 seconds. Oh, good luck to you for exciting new guys. Why are those woodchucks eating the toilet seats in Fort Wayne, Indiana? Probably something that's in the wood, I'd say. Now, the question is, what's in the wood? That's a little more specific, but you're hot.
I'll say that they wouldn't want lead because of the things. I'll say salt. Probably salt in the toilet seats.
You got it.
I did it! I did it!
See if I have a shiny new dime for you, little man.
Hey!
All right. Well, here's a shiny new dime.
Thanks, Uncle Larry.
See, what happens is people come into this Fox Island Nature Preserve in the summer. They're all sweaty. And they go to the toilet. Tommy and the salt gets in the toilet seat. Groundhogs come along, eat the toilet seats. They say as fast as they replace them, then groundhogs eat them up. You think they'd switch to plastic. You think they'd get smart. Well, that's terrible. That's disgusting. So far, those woodchucks have eaten 9 toilet seats in Fort Wayne. We'll keep you up to date on that crisis. I love this headline here. It says, woodchucks eat from the bowl. Well, here's a very bizarre story from Jackson, Ohio, over the wire this morning, little Tommy. It concerns a 62-year-old woman. They found her living in her station wagon with 12 dogs and 8 pups. Oh, wow. And also a dead dog on the dashboard. She's been in there for 7 months. She's just living in her station wagon, little Tommy, because she'd been kicked out of her house. Yeah. Because they foreclosed a mortgage on her. Oh. And shut off her utilities for non-payment, so she just moved into her station wagon with the 16 live dogs and 1 deceased one. They tried to get her to go to a nursing home, but she didn't want to go because she didn't want to leave her dog.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Finally, though, they talked her into it. But it says here that very resourceful woman says as the temperatures plunged to around 0 this week. Yeah. Of course, she's out there sleeping in her station wagon at night. But she kept warm in the back seat. The dogs piled on top of her. But she's...
including the one on the dashboard?
No. He just... Maybe it's kind of a good luck charm. Well, a lot of these people, you pull up behind a car, they get one of those play dogs in the back window.
Yeah, the head that Bob's coming down. And you turn your turn signal off. And the left eye blinks.
Yeah, well, see, she had some even better. More realistic. Well, it seems, little Tommy, that according to this newspaper story, Burnt Smith of Fresco had an exotic animal sale held at the fairground. And they were going to be slaughtered for this pig barbecue, but they escaped from the locker plant. And they caught 12 of them, but the 13th eluded the authorities and was roaming throughout the streets of the town for several days. And these wild hogs, real fierce-looking things, they've got long hair and and all the residents of Fresco were afraid it would attack somebody who was cornered, so Vern, he gave the
Cresco police permission to shoot it on site. Gave him a description of the hog?
Yeah. And it was sighted almost daily, but it was always able to outmaneuver and outrun its pursuer until one Saturday night at about 10:30.
This Cresco policeman, making his rounds, looking for teenage drug addicts,
Saw this wild Russian hog
standing right in the middle of the main street. This is about 10:30 at night, and he ran it down with his squad car. Well, maybe they can't shoot too good in Cresco either, so he didn't want to take a chance. Wow, ran with his car. Well, turn his siren on.
Oh, God.
That'd be a good scene for the Duke.
Oh,
I'll send that in to whoever writes that show.
Well, that's all the time we have for Animal Stories from 20 Boys and Girls. Tune in again at this same time tomorrow. I wish we had got to get this show on TV
So that we can show these pictures, this incredible
picture of Mike the Headless Rooster.
Tune in again at the same time tomorrow for more highly explained world-renowned animal stories with your charming and delightful old Uncle Air.
Hey, sidekick old Tommy.
Until then, this is both of us.
Ken and me.
Saying, go, 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 go!
For the world of media waves, merry-go-round DX program number 152,330. Groenland's radio, the voice of the crotch, has reappeared on 3999 kilohertz with special programming for crews. Over which they had no control and which covered them with a coating of sin at the moment of birth, squeezing through that sinful little opening. Dr. Jean will lead the children through the process of being reborn. Of course, Dr. Jean ignores the fact that all males are always trying to get back in there again. Dr. Jean will be assisted by several characters on the program, including Miss Kitty, Adolf the Friendly Bear, and old Mr. Fondle from the daycare center. Dr. Jean will be telling all the kids how to get their parents' credit card numbers and bank account numbers and how to make long-distance phone calls. Jeff White, Shortwave's Man About the Caribbean, and Alan Weiner of Radio New York and other equally successful ventures have formed a new partnership called Big White Weiner. Here's an opportunity to QSL those countries that nobody else on your block can get. Big White Weiner has outfitted several old tuna boats with transmitters, and for a fee, will park one near the country of your choice and transmit for 1/2 hour on a frequency and at a time that only you know. The fee includes a 4-color full data QSL card sent only to you regardless of how many reports they get. The voice of the split is seeking reception. They would like to know how their pulsations and undulations are being received out there. They hope that previous listeners will come again. Send your reports to the voice of the split in care of Candy, Hit Me Again, Loveless, Pubic Relations, Department 88, Harry Boulevard, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Please include 3 previously licked stamps. The Pacific Islands of Tonga, Tokelau, and Tuvalu have formed a new federation to be called Tokatuvatonga. From time to time, the Swedish bikini team pops up on the news around here. They did some special broadcasts for CHU a couple of years ago in the now famous WWD-CHU War. Last year, they demonstrated beverage and dinner collections at the Coltsville SWL Festival. Well, those lovely, healthy young things are at it again. Demonstrating their obvious well-rounded knowledge of the listening hobby, they've contracted with a firm in Taiwan to market a line of de-expedition clothing. We have to wonder who provided the market research for this endeavor, as we have a hard time seeing your typical male de-expeditionist wearing one of those bags with a strap up his ass and his cheeks hanging out. The Society for the Popularization of Ubiquitous Radio Transmitters, SPURT, recently released its annual survey of the most popular station in the tri-state area. First prize this year goes to Alice Brannigan's cellular telephone. Second prize went to Alice's baby monitor. Congratulations, Alice! This is Radio Azteca, your station for all of life but baseball. Over my head, here comes Mambo. To faithful listener Marianne Kehoe of Atlanta, Georgia, home of America's listeners, here is today's Top 10 list. Here are the top 10 reasons that Scarfman attended Coltsville this year. Number 10, got hung up on Hauser's 900 line. Number 9, couldn't get a date with Christian K. Number 8, planning a takeover of Grove Enterprises. Number 7, got thrown out of the PLO Peace Talk. Number 6, got tired of copying numbers off of radios. Number 5, World Radio TV Handbook not sold on his planet. Number 4, Lorena Bobbitt said yes, but not with you. Number 3, heard that Coltsville was a good place to pick up AIDS. Number 2, Pastor Pete said that prayer wouldn't help. And the number 1 reason that Scarfman attended Coltsville this year, Dr. Kevorkian's appointment book was sold. This is Radio Azteca, the leader in bodily function radio.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Future that has only been semi-formal now and again. Let's make this an official part of Radio Azteca. Actual stuff. These are all items taken off the air and from the world's news media. We are not making these up.
Well, who would make up a story like that?
I don't know. But our first item today comes from USA Today and concerns a hypnotist in Frankfort, Kentucky, who offers breast enlargement without surgery. The state attorney general has sued him for false advertising and calling himself a doctor. Perhaps he would have been okay if he'd falsely advertised. That reminds me of another story.
This was cut out of some Pennsylvania paper. Berwick, Pennsylvania. Headline here says, police seek breast exam hoaxer. Story says, police are seeking a man in his late 20s who convinced a state college woman that he could detect breast cancer over the telephone.
Over the telephone?
Mm-hmm. How'd you do that? Police investigators said a state college woman in her 20s, whom police would not identify, reported that she received a call last month from a man who said he was working on a new medical device for Pennsylvania State University. During their telephone conversation, the man convinced the woman that his new device could detect early breast cancer if the telephone receiver was rubbed against the endangered area. So she did this.
Yeah?
And the man told her that he had found evidence of cancer and asked for an appointment later in the day to examine the woman in her home.
Oh, good.
So he showed up and examined the woman's breast, it says here, laid his head on her chest, and then hummed her softly. He left without harming her in any way, and by this time, this stupid woman realized that she had been caught and called police, who reported that she was very embarrassed at how naive she was.
An announcer on Cleveland's WKNR said that Indiana University basketball coach Bobby Knight should get an award for the best visual effects. An announcer on WLW in Cincinnati, quoting a survey, said that 70% of men would rather give up sex than their car, and that their car is one of two places that men don't ask directions.
What are you trying to prove here anyway?
I've never seen a car yet. Well, that's another story. One of the most astute statements heard on the air in a long time came from a preacher on WWCR recently. There's not a country in the world where you can't turn your radio on and hear false preachers. Of course, one of these segments wouldn't be complete without a quote from the funniest man on radio, Dr. Gene Scott. Most preachers are so impoverished of brains and ability that they could never, ever make more than $12,000. Thanks to alert listener Ken Zicki for that one. Our primo item for the day comes from another item in USA Today and says that a Muskegon, Michigan prison officials have begun a pilot program for sex offenders that uses an electronic device that attaches to an inmate's penis and measures responses to pictures and sounds. Critics say that it raises moral and ethical issues. We here at Radio Azteca want to know what the frequencies for these hard-on detectors are. We can't wait to get that first QSL from this new source of electromagnetic entertainment.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Do they call their interval signals premature emissions? When they're not transmitting, do you call that flaccid air or dangling air? We think that these are all serious DX issues that PopCom ought to cover. Put Alice Brannigan on in this story, Uncle Tom. Well, that's about all the hard truth we can take for now, but we'll be back again with more actual stuff. This is Radio Azteca. If it has questionable redeeming value, you'll find it here. Time again for that man about radio, bon vivant, Roseanne Arnold's tattoo polisher. It's time to Ask Dr. Radio. Our first letter today comes from Sirajul Mujibur from Wichita, Bangladesh. What exactly is the tropical band? Zero Joel, in the tropics near the equator, it storms and rains a lot. That creates lots of radio noise and interference. This makes listening to many of the frequencies available on inexpensive radios very annoying. To make life more enjoyable for folks living in these areas, the tropical bands were created. Some of the more famous bands include Xavier Cugat, Perez Prado, and Ricky Ricardo. Our next letter comes from Scott Farkas of Holman, Indiana. Dr. Radio, if I run my antenna straight into my tape recorder, can I DX without a radio? Scott, you silly shit. If you do that, you'll just record the sound of the wind whistling past your antenna or the sound of birds perched on it dropping their loads into your barbecue. Everyone knows that you have to have capacitors, resistors, knobs, dials, and a passport to world band radio in order to get DX.
I want all privately owned radios to be immediately impounded.
We still have quite a few questions left from the voluminous list sent by one-shot listener Jean-Guy Pepsi.
Something very strange about that man.
Jean asks, do QSLs prove anything? According to the Canadian Union of Novice Tuners Hearing Anomalous Intergalactic Receptions, Contair, a QSL card proves beyond the shadow of any doubt that reports were sent. Certain highly venerated organizations, which shall remain unnamed, highly prize QSLs and encourage their members to report as many as possible. It has always been rumored that in certain circles, an anonymous benefactor pays these people large sums of money for reporting QSLs, allowing them to perpetuate their position in the hobby without having any visible means of support.
I'm Fuzzy-O, or Big Broadway.
Dear announcer, Brand Stoker, I've always felt that a QSL card with a picture of a naked babe on the beach is more fulfilling than an ecclesiastical DXer certificate. If you'd like to challenge Dr. Radio, send those insightful questions to our law firm, Dewey G. This is Radio Azteca, showing you only the finest radio tips. Plunk that magic twinger. Why do people take a piss but give a shit? When a duck comes in on the water, why do they call that a landing? Why haven't we heard from the voice of Shake Rag lately? Why did Stagger Lee hurt Billy? What exactly was thrown off the Tallahatchie Bridge? Honk if you love Jesus. Well, folks, we have to save some of the good shit that we have left over for another time. We shall return, so keep your body parts alert. For your commemoration of this auspicious occasion, send your excruciatingly detailed reception report, 3 mint stamps, and the name of your all-time favorite babe to Radio Azteca, in care of DVS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. Allow 6 weeks for delivery. Not valid in Puerto Rico or Mississippi.
So good night. Be sorry.
This has been Radio Azteca, program number 10. We've upped our standards, now up yours. Radio Azteca Programa Número 11. Holy fajitas and hold the gas. It's Radio Azteca with program number 11. This is your announcer, Bram Stoker, with another round of gross but tasteful insight into the minds of folks with too much time on their hands. We welcome your comments, misdirected criticism, contributions, and photos of your sister in embarrassing positions. Send all your good stuff with an excruciatingly detailed reception report with 3 wise-ass comments we can use on the air, 3 mint stamps, and an unused sausage casing to DBS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. In return, we will send you our undying gratitude and submit your report to our hard-ass review committee. You will note from the upcoming installment of Male Scrotum that our hard-ass report review committee has been more hard-ass than ever lately, with the latest batch of wit submitted by you folks out there.
Have you ever seen such cruelty?
Yes, I have. A radio spam QSL. This Radio Azteca program is brought to you by the Hawaiian Association of Novice DXers Junior Operating Board, Handjob. If you would like a transcript of this broadcast, just write everything down on a piece of paper. Handjob is a subsidiary of the Society for the Preservation of Undulating Radio Transmissions, SPURT. This broadcast may not be recorded, retransmitted for profit without the express written consenting adults of Handjob and SPURT. This is Radio Azteca, one of America's gross national products. I love those oldies. And now, as promised, it's time to dig into Bram's bag. It's time for Male Scrotum. Our first letter this time comes from frequent writer Paul Grote of Hartsburg, Missouri. Paul says that he has finally come to the conclusion that Radio Azteca has nothing to do with an extinct civilization and wants to know why the bloody hell we chose Radio Azteca.
And how do you do that to yourself?
I don't know. It just seems like the thing to do. As we suspect, anyone who takes any time at all to wonder why there is a Radio Azteca hosted by a fellow named Bram Stoker that brings you all the latest hard facts on the DX community definitely has too much free time on his hands. Paul goes on to ask several more insightful questions, which we would normally give Dr. Radio, but we'll attempt to handle them here on Male Scrotum. Who is buried in Grant's Camp? I believe it was, I think her name was Gogi. What color is an orange? Many that we have seen around here are green and furry. Where is the ocean near the shore? Now you're cooking, Paul. The ocean is near the shore so that we can back trailers with boats up into the water. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why oh why can't I? Paul, you can open your fly beyond the rainbow anytime you want to. Which reminds old Bram of a Karnak joke. The answer is Superfly. The question is, what do you find on the front of Wilt Chamberlain's pants?
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Well, that's just about enough coverage for Paul this time. Keep in touch, Paul, and stick by the telephone. Franz Bergman of Whitehall, Wisconsin, said it took some time for him to distinguish us from VOA overload. Yeah, Franz, we can understand you're mistaking animal stories and actual stuff and all the Rocky and Bullwinkle bumpers for the VOA. Carl DeWitt, the most famous DXer in Ponca City, Oklahoma, sent a requested, excruciatingly detailed reception report. Carl showed the very poor judgment of picking a time to listen when there was a thunderstorm at his place.
fancy yourself.
Carl tried to throw us a bone by stating that the show seemed quite humorous and amusing. We really get off on that kind of stuff. I guess the wit and wisdom of Radio Azteca can shine through just about anything. Carl adds, may shortwave liberation last all summer. Carl, does that mean you want to listen to more female pirates? Roger Henderson of Memphis, Tennessee, a first-time reporter, obviously suffers from the hearing equivalent of dyslexia and combined the details from God knows what broadcasts.
You're the most mixed-up man I ever saw.
For his effort, though, Roger received one of the several Radio Azteca rejection cards authorized by our Hard-Ass Report Review Committee this time. Gigi Lytle of Lubbock, Texas wrote, "Yee-haw! Gigi, buy a tape recorder." Gigi also obviously has a lot of stickers to get rid of, and thanks for the naked picture of Miss Kitty. For that, we have to ask,
What are you trying to prove here anyway?
Michael Bay of Kansas City, Missouri writes for the first time and played on our sympathy by telling us that he had to leave the radio and care for his rugrats. What did the little person do?
Little bastard shot me in the ass.
Ordinarily, we would respond to this sort of thing with a rejection card, but due to the introductory "Dear Sirs" in his letter, we opted only for a rejection card this time around. Robert Ross of London, Ontario, sent a report on ODXA stationery. I suppose he thinks that's worth something extra. Robert referred to everyone he heard as a DJ. Frankly, Robert, we find that degrading and bugging Rich. We prefer to think of ourselves here at Radio Azteca as interpreters of the human continuum.
Have you ever seen such cruelty?
Yes, but only on a radio spam QSL.
Hold it! What the hell is that shit?
Well, if you'd seen a radio spam QSL, you'd know. Franz Bergman wrote again and has now collared all 3 regular QSL types we currently have available. Franz added this time that he uses a folded half-wave long wire. Franz, we found that your standard size latex condom generally works much better. Kurt Trummel of Springfield, Missouri sent yet another report, which was alas found lacking and merited a rejection card.
Oh, prairie shit.
This, however, was a major step up, as his previous effort merited a rejection card. Wait, what's this? Yet another report from Kurt, and with a tape. My God, it is Radio Azteca program number 10. Congratulations, Kurt. Kurt says that we probably already know all there is to know about him. That's remotely interesting. Not really, Kurt.
I want to know more about what you do here.
For example, when's the last time you went out on a date with a Holstein? How often do you get pimples in your knee pit? Do you install your toilet paper over the top or under the bottom? See, there's lots we don't know about you. Richard T. Pistek, famous deceased DXer and recipient of a WLIS Retrospective Award, writes to say that he will be pirating a certain part of Radio Azteca's wisdom for general distribution.
I'm making them all for your camp machines.
Dick, we've been playing around with the idea of putting together a booklet of Radio Azteca's top 10 list. Of course, at this point, it will be a pretty short book. Owsley of Up Against the Wall Radio wrote and made us an excellent offer. How did that make your old buddy Bram feel? Our board of directors is always interested in appropriately asking offers, and we'll certainly discuss the matter at our next meeting. John Arthur sent us an ad copy from a new sponsor, which you will be hearing later in the program. And a final note to Kurt Trummel. Do I owe you another QSL? Old Bram loses track occasionally. Well, old Bram's bag is empty again. We really do enjoy hearing from all of you and reading all the silly shit you come up with. Rest assured that every word gets written for program content. If you'd like to write to us, go right ahead. We'd like to get your tape readings and promos, too. Just be sure to protect your tape and your other appendages properly and to include sufficient remuneration for the data transfer. For those of you who are wondering what remuneration is, that's the process by which cows turn grass into metal pastries. On a few occasions, Radio Azteca has used the promo, the leader in bodily function radio. We hereby relinquish that title and will not use it again. We consider that the main leader in bodily function radio is radio spam. Those of you who received a recent radio spam QSL and have recovered know what we're talking about. Those of you who haven't seen it have been spared the gut-wrenching, mouth-pursing, butt-puckering experience. We will continue to report bodily function news here at Radio Azteca, but we must take off our job strap in deference to the true leader. So you ask, what effect does radio spam QSL have on its beholder?
Leaving the smooth, clean surface, one-foot appetite.
Your announcer, Bram Stoker, will never eat a baby Ruth again. Since we're on the subject, we'd also like to mention that we enjoyed being assassinated on a recent broadcast of K2000, the loose cannon. This is Radio Azteca, the station that gives you more than 144 in a gross. And now, as promised, here is that new Radio Azteca sponsor.
So you make me wanna.
Chops off sleeping husband's penis, then drops it from moving car. Don't laugh, it's true, and it could happen to you. Right now, thousands of agitated, irate women have read that headline and are contemplating similar action against you the next time you make an unwanted sexual advance, look at them the wrong way, or just piss them off in general. Men, protect yourself now. If you find yourself a victim of CDS, chop and drop syndrome, could you be sure the appropriate authorities would find your chopped member in time and intact? Could you be sure the penis part they found was yours? Inquire now about our low-cost penis protection plan. Plan number 1. We'll register your penis and scrotum and tattoo them with their own unique registration numbers, ensuring that in case of separation, you'll get a perfect match every time. Prices vary according to size. Plan number 2, our Jurassic Brick program. We'll take a cell sample from your penis and clone replacement parts for you in the event a tractor trailer runs over your penis or some wild animal mistakes your detached member for a chew toy. Prices vary according to size. Plan 3, for those of you who believe in prevention, we offer a one-size-fits-all battery-operated stainless steel jockstrap that can be worn when necessary, when you're asleep. An alarm will be activated when metal or other hazardous objects come within 1 foot of the jockstrap. This will guarantee you a full night's sleep free of worry. Don't get caught short. Call 1-800-SAVE-A-DICK today. Remember, the dick you save could be your own. Time again for the World of DX Merry-Go-Round Party Wave Guide Program number 153,322. Not one single reception report has been recorded for Ecos del Lesbo, La Guadifago, or Radio Portobando, although Don Moore did report a QSL from the latter. You folks are slipping out there. Dr. Gene Scott, Dr. Jack Kevorkian and Dr. Richard Wood have pooled their many talents to start a new radio station aimed at the huge audience of folks who want to kill themselves with tropical fruit but still get through the pearly gates. Sounds like fixing the federal budget with a random number generator to us, but some big-time names have already signed up to give us the straight skinny on this apparently hot topic. Tammy Faye Baker will host a roundtable discussion on how to use makeup to fend off social diseases. Jimmy Swaggart will have a 6-part feature titled Salvation Through Sex and How Deep Is Your Religion? Magician, the famous Randy, will conjure up the spirit of Jim Jones each week to reveal a new Kool-Aid recipe. And also each week, Julia Child will reveal a new way to use cooking sherry as a douche. We understand that in her first installment, Dr. Jack Kevorkian himself will present his own specialty, carbon monoxide as a condiment. Radio USA has pulled off the deal of the century and will soon be relayed on all of Dr. Gene's stations. That will put Radio USA on more stations than Slick Willie has old flames. The voice of Seaman has been noted emitting on various frequencies. They carry programming aimed at lonely tuna boat sailors on long voyages. Wanda Greasy hosts a daily program called Take Things in Your Own Hands. Danny Pumpet offers advice on his segment called Make Your Cup Runneth Over. All you real He-Man type sailing enthusiasts will want to tune in regularly to the 10-Gallon Hat Club, hosted by John Holmes.
I thought you might have ideas about grabbing this.
The political map just keeps on changing. We here at Radio Azteca just can't hardly keep up, but we will, so you QSL hounds out there can get to 732 different countries verified. Moldova will split into 2 new countries, one called Moldova and the other Molander. Brazil and Sierra Leone will join to form a new country called Brazil-Leona. Northern Ireland has declared its independence from everybody and will now call itself Moscow, thus saving the cost of forming a new world service. The government of Colombia has announced that it is sick and tired of having people misspell its name, so it's changing it to Caracas. Madagascar, Mozambique, and Seychelles are joining together to form a new country to be called Mademoiselle. Upper Volta and Uruguay are uniting and will be called Up Uruguay. Canada and Tunisia will join together to form, dare I say it, Canatuna. After the elections in South Africa last year, eliminating the apartheid government, look for a new breakaway country to emerge called the National Socialist Republic of Germany. Well, that just about rubs off all the tips we have this time. Don't forget, we'd like to see your tips. Send your hot items to Lickety Tips, Post Office Squeeze Box, Drop Seed, Wyoming. This is Radio Azteca, your station for all that's gross but tasteful. In Williamston, Michigan, I hold in my hand the Radio Azteca Top 10 list. Today's Top 10 list is 10 things to put more pep into the DX hobby. Number 10, change the reception rating code to Sinbad. Number 9, nude photos of Glenn Hauser. Number 8, more women DXers. Number 7, penalties for fake logs. Number 6, QSL peer reviews. Number 5, count every pilot as a new DX country. Number 4, 4, 4 nude photos of Fred Osterman. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. 3 Number 3, Dr. Gene Scott taking over World of Radio. Number 2, Alan Wiener as FCC chairman. And the number 1 way to put more pep into the DX hobby, free rectal exam with every 25 QSL. This is Radio Azteca. We've upped our standards, so up yours. Of actual stuff. We are not making these up. These are off-air comments and items from the press, all of which we know must be true, otherwise why would they bother with it? Heard on WBZ Boston with names for our presidents, Bubba and Evita. And on WLS Chicago, President Doofus. Actually, I've always liked Slick Willie and Tory Bobbitt. Heard over WCBS in New York recently, U.S. foreign policy is always better understood when it's read real slow. The Indonesian population minister has been compared to a similar official in Thailand known as Mr. Condom. When appearing recently in West Java with a group of military generals, he introduced himself to the crowd as Commander Condom.
Well, are you sure you're reading that correctly?
Well, he ought to be Commander Condom. Colorado state education officials have closed Notre Dame de Lafayette University, which offered religious degrees by mail. In 1993, the school awarded a degree in Christian counseling to a golden retriever. School officials denied any wrongdoing.
Well, who made up a story like that?
I don't know. Our next real stuff comes from China and deals with their version of Bigfoot, which they refer to simply as wild men and wild women. A wild woman is reported to have approached a Mr. Li Mingyu. He reported that she had a large nose painted red by the cold. Through her hairy chest, he could see that she had breasts the size of rice bowls and nipples the width of thumbs. She was grinning. She came up and hugged him for 6 minutes. During the embrace, she made motions with her body, suggesting an interest in sex. Mr. Lee, alas, did not partake of this unique opportunity and spurned the advance. I wonder what I'd do if I saw something like that.
I have seen footsteps when the white.
Well, I'm not sure that's the way I'd react, but who can say? Heard on a recent pan-global wireless broadcast was the motto of Fartman. I can fart so hard I can fly through the air. I like that one. An AP story from Detroit says that Arab Americans are up in arms over a greeting card made by recycled paper greetings. The offending card says, "So you're feeling like Shiite. Don't make a big deal out of it." And of course, an installment of actual stuff would not be complete without a quote from that eminent radio telecomedian, Dr. Gene Scott, heard on WBCR. "I'm not on trial here, you are. I want 3,000 people to call me right now." Is there no length to which this man will go?
And you can kill for me if necessary.
I wouldn't put that past him, and hopefully we'll be here to record it. This is Radio Azteca, the station that gives you growth, not net. And here's a word from yet another new sponsor. Hey there, guys. Homo's got a new product you can use. Dippity-dong liquid condoms. No more worry about using the wrong size. No more worry about too thick or too thin. No more worry about a tattered rubber flapping in the breeze. Dippity-dong is a new patented formulation of liquid butyl rubber latex. All you provide is the hardener. Once the old Johnson is perked up, just dip it into your jar of Dippity-dong. Have your friend blow on it for a few seconds, and you've got an extra skin with all the protection you'll ever need. Dippity-dong jars come in 3 sizes: the quickie, the long weekender, and for you optimistic types, the 1-gallon bucket. Look for Dippity-dong in the cosmetics section of your favorite sporting goods store.
The other day, I ate a Ricochet biscuit. Well, it's a kind of a biscuit that's supposed to bounce off the wall back in your mouth. If it doesn't bounce back, you go hungry.
Today's radio horoscope, advice and wisdom. From the sign of Arnold the Terminator, all that hisses is not quiet. For the sign of Anarch the Barbarian, de-acting pirates is as much fun as getting your pecker caught in a milking machine. For the sign of Hertz the Cyclist, listen to Glenn. He has so much to say, there's bound to be something useful in there somewhere. For the sign of Illegible, the verifier. If you listen to more than one station at a time, you are guilty of shortwave infidelity. And finally, from Diode to Twins, you are what you listen This is Radio Azteca bringing you hot DX and bodily function tips. And of course, no Radio Azteca program would be complete without a visit from Dr. Radio. Dr. Radio answers all your questions that can be phrased in the form of a snappy, smart-ass retort. When's the last time you got a retort? Dr. Radio knows what he's talking about because he's a scientist.
No, you don't act like a scientist.
Well, what can I say? You just have to look deeper. In a recent program, Dr. Radio responded to a question about why DX was so much better in New Zealand than most other places. Dr. Radio correctly pointed out that DX is not necessarily better in New Zealand, but that they may think so because the only two things to do there is to listen to the radio and screw sheep.
So you gotta cut that out.
Well, we would, but it's easy to go for the cheap laugh. We have received an irate letter from a Mr. Muffet of Lamb's Lick, South Island, New Zealand, representing the radio enthusiasts, DXers, and Benevolent Union of New Zealand, Red Buns. Little Mr. Muffet eloquently points out that screwing sheep is not the only other activity available to them in their spare time. He points out several other pastimes, some of which your old buddy Bram wants to try out, including the annual Fuzzy Fruit Toss Tournament, abusing your Maori, flightless bird races, and the Greenpeace Ship Demolition Contest. We would like to heartily thank Mr. Muffet for pointing out all those intriguing and fascinating things to do. We would certainly like to get more details, including photographs if available, of abusing your Maori. We still have a shitload of leftover questions from one-shot wonder Jean-Guy Pepsi of Smith Crossing, Quebec. You know about Quebec. That's the place where all the rest of the Canadians stay.
I want you to go away.
Jean asks, why can't we ask Glenn Hauser for advice on receivers? Do you have any advice on receivers? Jean, by all means, ask Glenn for advice on receivers. Just be sure to explain clearly in your letter that you are talking about the metal box that he saw Ernie Bear using to get all his DX from the last time he was there. My advice for receivers is to go along and avoid getting hit. Our next legitimate letter comes from Ferd Bertel of Los Angeles. Ferd asks, what's a repeater? Ferd, you spent far too much time either DXing or abusing yourself. Frankly, we're surprised that you haven't heard about this as much as it's been in the news the last couple of years. Taking the chance that we've belabored the point too much already, a repeater is an operation performed on John Barbett after his Peterectomy.
Yes, it's true. This man has an infection.
Well, Dr. Radio has abused his privileges enough here. They're getting red and he's out of here. Send your insightful queries to Dr. Radio, Post Office Box 7415, Blue Ridge, Wells, East Jersey. This is Radio Azteca, your alternative to WEWN. Hey, boys and girls, come on out to the State Fair Saturday this weekend for some real fun. The Politically Incorrect Women's Auxiliary has a full day planned. At 1 o'clock, check out the Spotted Owl Chili Cook-Off and the Snail Darter Gumbo Contest. Yum, yum. At 2 o'clock, head for the main arena for the Cribble Races. Right after that, the Mrs. Housewife contest will be held. This year, there'll be a different weight division for the largest breast competition. All day long, you can check out the progress on the Black Suntan contest. At 3 o'clock, near the entrance gate, there'll be an ethnic slur contest. Suggest you bring a lawn chair and earplugs for this one. At 4 o'clock, head back to the main arena for the Jeffrey Dahmer impression contest, which will be followed by the ever-popular Longest Booger contest. At 5 o'clock, everyone is asked to head for the racetrack. Join hands for the grand finale circle jerk. Decided you had enough, so we're going back into the annex to grind out some more wit and wisdom for program dozen, and to give us some time to look up what dozen is in Spanish. If you absolutely have to have a commemoration of this truly auspicious and orgasmic event, send your excruciatingly detailed reception report, 3 mint stamps, and a detailed description of your best-looking neighbor's habits to DVS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895.
What are you trying to prove here anyway?
Just that you folks and me, Bram Stoker, do this. Next time, this is your announcer, Bram Stoker, leaving you with this useful advice. Never connect your radio to an antenna with sparks coming out of the end of it. And never, never, never loan your boat to Alan Wiener. This has been Radio Azteca, program number 11. Bienvenidos, muchachos y amigos, al Radio Azteca, programa número 12. Si desea información de sintonía de esta transmisión, envíanos su relato de recepción detallado mucho a DVC Comunicaciones, apartado 452, Wellsville, Nueva York, 14895. Esta es Radio Azteca, su estación para todos, que es grueso pero gustoso.
Who are you, stranger?
This is your announcer, Bram Stoker, with Radio Azteca, program number 12. Nobody's ever seen a dozen like this. It certainly was nice to hear more than usual from our Spanish announcer, Emiliano Zamboni. You may have heard of Emiliano's brother, Rafael, who invented the ice cube tray. Emiliano has been laying low around here for quite a while now, and believe me, Lowe's husband is pissed.
Listen, you gotta cut that out.
Last year, Emiliano accidentally gave out the wrong post office box number and has been seeking atonement ever since. And if he ever finds atonement, he'll probably mail her, too. Perhaps Emiliano will have some additional wisdom to impart another time. If he breaks out of his depression, I wonder what we're going to do with Emiliano.
We're going to hold on to him by the nose, and we're going to kick him in the ass. We're going to kick the hell out of him all the time, and we're going to go through him like crap through a beef.
Seems kind of severe, but what the hell. Radio Azteca is brought to you by the Georgia Organization of Dedicated Hobbyists in Gross Antenna Development. Good head. Radio Azteca is your station for all that's gross but tasteful.
Oh, God, it's so gross.
Your old buddy Bram happened to catch the Napers' second anniversary program on October 1st. We were surprised to learn that Radio Azteca number 1 was Napers' first relay. Well, Richard, there's nothing more memorable than your first. My first was, well, that's another story. Anyway, we here at Radio Azteca are honored, humble, contain no artificial additives, and are available 24 hours a day for personal consultations and couch dances. Actually, our first relay was by one of the Unknown Beavers on September the 19th, 1992. If you haven't been relayed by an unknown beaver, you just haven't been relayed. We are also reminded that last time we neglected to thank our relays, the folks who take all the chances to bring this self-satisfying FDA-approved nonsense to you. Over the past 2 years, we want to thank KHPP, KULP, CSIC, the voice of the Great White North, CRAPS, Canadian Relays of American Pirate Stations, the Unknown Beavers, and certainly to the North American Pirate Relay Service. Mucho thanks to a bunch of weird dudes like the rest of us. We've noticed that you folks who report our stuff through monitoring times use terms like biting wit, biting parodies, and biting humor. What exactly is this oral fixation you folks have? Are you envious of your dogs? Do you feel deprived from not having been breastfed? Did your straw break? I can just hear you saying,
I need to go where the big ones are biting.
we here at Radio Azteca would like to further explore this little-known facet of the DX's psyche. Please send us a photograph or graphic description of the thing you would most like to have in your mouth while DXing.
I'll be glad to as long as we can get it up.
But I can't wait to see what it looks like.
Tonight, our usual feature, Mail Photo, where we make certain messages remembered about all of us who take with us and to hear their name on the air. Today, from Grandma Gigi Weigel of Lubbock, Texas. Yeehaw! Gigi, that's mucho apreciado. Gigi also noted that our Radio Azteca QSL service address is quite clever. We think so too, Gigi. One DXer from Pennsylvania actually sent a card to us, but we won't mention Michael's name on the air. Apparently, a recent Radio Azteca relay tapped into the mother lode. Several listeners were on a DXpedition in the woods near Brighton, Michigan, doing whatever it is that DXers do in the woods. The consisted of Carl Martinez of Livonia, Michigan, Bob Sawicki of Madison Heights, Michigan, Edo Wolfish from Toronto, Harold Rhodes, Midland, Michigan, Larry Russell, Flushing, Michigan, and Ken Zicki from Williamston, Michigan. Sounds like the band Motley Crue to me, but they all got QSLs. These obviously bored DXs provided old Bram with enough material for quite a while. Neil and Ken provided Dr. Radio with some questions to grapple with, and Dr. Radio is well known for his graphics. He's recognized as having one of the outstanding graphics in the area, having won grand championship at the DeKalb County Fair 7 years running. Some of the other comments and queries by this alert group sent include, why is ANUSnet on LSB instead of USB, the manliest of all modes? Bangladesh is French for striking your dead. The station on 7384 is Radio Looking for a Peace International. If a ram is a sheep and an ass is a mule, how come a ram and ass are confused? Why do farts smell? So deaf people can enjoy them too. I don't know about you, but I've gotten much more pleasure out of my stomach than my radio. A kiwa is a small flightless bird with brown wings. That's great stuff, guys. Do you ever listen to your radios out there? Speaking of Dr. Radio, which we seem to do quite often around here, Franz Bergman of Whitehall, Wisconsin also sent Dr. Radio some really great queries, and he'll be getting started on them later in the program. Franz also sent another report and included some actual working plans from a Dr. Dickies Midnight Pile Driver builder with a dual transfer unit. It includes transmission, overdrive, and laser targeting system. Franz, you and your friends definitely need to find something to do. Famous deceased DXer Richard T. Pistek, or Dick, to his most intimate friends, checked in with a censored email message. Dick added a note that he would be pumping out. Pumping out what, Dickie? Did the old outhouse overflow into the tomato patch again? Faithful listener Marianne Kehoe of Atlanta, Georgia, checked in with her promised latest top 10 list, which we will be hearing later. Speaking of top 10 lists, another one of the Michigan DXpedition Motley Crew suggested that we have an all top 10 program. That certainly would let us unjam the sizable shitload of unused top 10 lists we've accumulated, but that might get old quick. We here at Radio Azteca go for the quick, cheap laugh and don't want to abuse too many people at one time. Alan Masiga of Winona, Minnesota wrote for the third time. Alan gave us several pointed jabs, but we figured that since we dish it out here at Radio Azteca, we damn well better be able to take it. David Kapinas, no, not the same spelling as that one, of Elwood, Illinois, is a first-time writer. David says that we're most humorous and keep up the excellent format, unlike some of the comments we've gotten recently from other folks. Format? What's a format? Attention, attention. Bud Stacy in the Japanese city of Satsuma, Alabama, and Ken Zicki in Williamson, Michigan. Trust me on this, guys. You need to send me a report for a broadcast you haven't reported on so far. Well, as it turns out, the same day your old buddy Bram threw this gathering onto tape, he went to the mailbox and found a whole bunch of new mail from Wellsville. But since we've got a full load this time, we'll be holding it over for program number 13. So if you didn't hear your letter this time, be patient, it'll get there. If you would like a little yellow card with a Radio Azteca logo on it, your name, and some random numbers, send your reception port with 3 wise-ass comments we can use on the air, 3-mint stamps, and a photograph of your girlfriend wearing spike heels to DBS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. This is Radio Azteca. If it has questionable, socially redeeming qualities, you'll hear it here. We have a new pirate mystery to tackle with here, boys and girls. An informed source assures me that a recent Radio Azteca relay attributed to Jean-Guy Pepsi on the hotline is not the same Jean-Guy Pepsi that sent Dr. Radio all those insightful questions you heard in recent months. Informed source says that he knows Jean-Guy Pepsi, and this new person is no Jean-Guy Pepsi. The mystery thickens in that before the relay in question, someone was broadcasting giving the Merlin drop. We couldn't hear them well at all here at Radio Azteca headquarters, but it might have been Le Roi du Jean-Guy Pepsi. Even if it wasn't, wouldn't it be a great name for a pirate station? We could have dueling Jean-Guy Pepsi. The real Le Roi du Jean-Guy Pepsi and the fake Le Roi du Jean-Guy Pepsi. God, isn't this a great hobby? Well, that makes 8 times now we've mentioned Jean-Guy Pepsi. 9 times. Well, maybe we can hold off till Dr. Radio gets here. Signals Network program number 162,407. Alas, by the time you hear this, transmissions from La Voz del Gringo in America via Bethany, Ohio, may be a thing of the past.
Oh, prairie shit.
The old Gringo's erections will be flacidated and sold off to La Voz de la República del Banana. The Voice of the Andes has recently been revealed to be a station put together by Andy Yoder, Andy Sennett, Andy Williams, and Andy Griffith. Last time, we reported on a new far-right religious station started by Dr. Gene Scott, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, and Dr. Richard Wood, aimed at folks who want to kill themselves with tropical fruit but still get into heaven. Well, shortly after the station went on the air, a rival point of view station went on, bankrolled by Rod Stewart, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Dennis Rodman, and Rodney Dangerfield. Some of the experts lined up for opposing views include Jesse Jackson, Idi Amin, Buffy St. Marie, and Paula Poundstone. Looks like a juicy rivalry shaping up here, folks. We haven't seen this kind of action since the famous WWV-CHU wars. The Society for the Quadrilateral Union of Intermittent Radio Transmitters, QUIRT, recently held its annual survey of clandestine broadcasters. By a substantial margin, the most obnoxious broadcaster award was WEWN, followed closely by anyone using 7415. Honorable mention was given to Voice of the Night and WPIG. The Squirt Award statuettes, affectionately known as splatters, were handed out at the annual banquet and underwear swap held at the Grand Place Pissoir in Brussels, Belgium. Say that 10 times real fast. Accepting the award for WEWN for the Pope, who was absent, was Dr. Gene Scott, who was also absent. We're going to make a major, colossal departure from our usual format and demeanor by bringing you some real DX tips.
Oh, it will be exciting.
Whenever anybody writes to us, one thing we don't do is ignore them. Chuck Banky of Kea Hawaii writes and suggests that we should try for the Russian on 873 kilohertz medium wave and look for both a Russian and Chinese station on 1476 kilohertz. Chuck also says that the recent controversy over who's on 1557 kilohertz is due to the fact that both DWGO Philippines and a news station from the Marshall Islands is there. And for some unknown reason, Chuck also pointed out that Tanya Tucker is 36 years old.
Isn't it amazing the shit that settles in the crevices of your mind?
Ian McFarland, that Canadian radio stud muffin, is back on North American soil. We haven't heard much from Ian since the Quebec Nordiques traded him to the Tokyo Giants for a third-round draft pick and a ground draft. Ian is now doing a column for the ODXA.
I'm so excited.
I suppose you could say that Ian is. Well, those of you who are regular QSL hounds on these frequencies know that while Ian was gone, his persona was kept in the forefront by being featured on all WLIS QSLs which didn't feature Bart Simpson. Well, that's about all the hot tips we can touch this time. We'd like to see your tips. Rest assured that if your tips aren't quite up to snuff, we'll jazz them up. Send your juicy radio tips to Touch My Tip, Post Office Box Lunch, Wonderbra, Oregon. is Radio Azteca, the station that gives you gross, not net. This is Graham Stoker of Radio Azteca with a public service announcement for both beginner and advanced DXers from the American Society for the Prevention of Splatters and Spurious Emissions. Practice safe DX. DX only with approved sheathed antennas or use a coil antenna. Ground all your erections. DX only with someone you know and trust. If you must DX, do it with inductive coupling. Blow that saxophone. We have a great pleasure today of having a true celebrity with us in the studio, Glenn Hauser, considered by some to be the foremost professional DXer to come along in decades. Welcome to Radio Azteca, Glenn.
Hey, baby, what's happening? Hey, pasa.
Glenn, you're a legend in the DX community.
And if I was you, I'd be mighty suspicious of me.
I am a sick man.
You've been called a DX god by some. Does that bother you?
But it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I tell you, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Oh, you're a nice-looking man.
Thank you. Many in the hobby are quite envious of you and poke fun at you quite often. What effect does this have on you?
I'll tell you what the effect was. It's picking me off.
How did you get started in the radio hobby?
You'll do anything if the price is right.
Why did you decide to become a professional DXer?
I love no problem in the morning.
I suppose that makes as good a reason as any. What do you do when you're not DXing?
I used to get lost twice a week.
Yes, we've all heard those stories about you hooking up to farm fences in the boondocks for a beverage fix. Do you have any hobbies other than DXing?
All I do is work. I work my fingers to the bone.
Ain't it the truth? All that knob twisting and button pushing. What's the greatest comfort you get from DXing?
Actual physical contact.
Now, there's a concept I hadn't thought of. Full contact DXing. What are some of the great moments you recall?
To listen to sine waves on the radio.
How do you explain the attraction of DXing to the thousands of hobbyists?
It just beats the hell out of me.
I've always thought that it has something to do with having access to the whole world in that little black box with knobs and dials.
Wait, let's walk some. What you say, not true. Black box, plenty bad medicine, wait.
I could be wrong, but I also feel that DXing has been a rationalization for timid folks as a cheap alternative to actually traveling and avoiding contact with real people.
As Orville said to Wilbur, you're right.
What do you consider your greatest achievement in DXing?
I have seen every time you like.
Proving once again that DXers are weird people. Who have you been influenced by?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator.
What do you think of Ernie Bear?
I've been trying about that man.
And how about Dr. Richard Wood?
He's not a real doctor.
Glenn, you seem to have instant recall of all schedules, programs, station histories, and so on.
Isn't it amazing the shit that settles in the crevices of your mind?
Rumors persist that you had some sort of run-in a few years ago with a certain NASA official. What happened?
Little bastard shot me in the ass.
How would you deal with the rash of illegal pirate broadcasters filling the airwaves in recent years?
I want all privately owned radios to be immediately impounded.
Well, we're running out of time, but one more question. What will you do when you finally retire, Glenn?
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Glenn, do you have any final advice for all of our Radio Azteca listeners?
Flex your buttocks alternately and wave your hips from side to side.
I can't think of any better advice for DXers, Glenn. Thanks very much for taking time out of your busy schedule for being here. Glenn Hauser, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's time again for another installment of Actual Stuff. We are not making these up. These are all items from various news media and off-air comments from that electromagnetic media we all love and spend a hell of a lot of time and money on. An Associated Press story from Leamington, Ontario says that someone stole 65 cases of Heinz pickles off of a rail car originating in Holland, Michigan.
Like that.
A Heinz spokesman, Mario Pacinin, estimated the street value of the pickles as $920, give or take. A special rail agent said that the previous month, some young people were caught in a rail car breaking Heinz pickle jars. We at Radio Azteca think that this pickle violence is just another example of how our society has gone to hell in a pickle jar. From the "What the bloody hell is this guy thinking about" department comes this item from USA Today. New Jersey Assemblyman Jeff Walsh introduced a bill requiring that public buildings have twice as many toilets for women as for men. Alert listener Ken Zicki sends this quote attributed to John Cleese, one of the esteemed philosophers of the Montgomery Python School. Quote, "There is a difference between being serious and being solemn." But now for something completely different. Two items on the same page of a recent USA Today caught our eye. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi has asked Phoenix, Arizona officials for $29 million so that he and his transcendental meditation group can send positive thought waves in order to reduce crime in the city. Mayor Felder Williams said that they didn't have that kind of money, but they appreciated all the good karma they could get. In Washington, D.C., crime fell 18% one month, attributed to a project by 4,000 of the Maharishi followers. This all may have some impact on DXers of exotic signals. What frequencies do these fruitcakes use? What does 4,000 people humming sound like? We recently received a letter, as we suspect many of you did, from WJCR, Upton, Kentucky, lamenting about how they cannot pay their bills. The letter starts out, quote, "My precious partner," and is signed by Don. I don't know about you, but your old buddy Brand is not Don's precious partner. Don mentions that God longs to fulfill their every need, but of course they want us to fork over our, quote, "best offering possible." Why do you suppose these turkeys won't admit that when nobody contributes, they're not wanted?
Probably because he's possessed by the devil.
Scottish scientists have developed a stainless steel porta potty that will operate as low as minus 10 degrees. One of these scientific marvels was recently installed at the 20,000-foot base camp on Mount Everest. I don't know about you, but there's no way I'm going to plop down onto a stainless steel toilet at minus 10 degrees. Heard on one of the good old boy ham nets on 3943 recently, quote, "She's a fine-looking woman if you can get by the web feet, the one eye in the center of her forehead, and the 3 breasts." This would have made a good top 10 list, but we didn't hear 10 good things. Here are some of the better lines we heard on the latest Radio St. Helena broadcast. We are not making these up. Quote, "There's nothing like eating fresh tuna." Quote, "The tortoises were infertile." Quote, "The girl had her 15th birthday on the same day as mine, and this caused me many fantasies." And the best one, quote, "Do you have anything to say before I cut you off?" Tony Leo obviously went to the Helena Audit School of Broadcasting. The previous comment reminds me of a comment also heard at a recent gathering of DXers. Quote, there are two things in this world that smell like tuna fish, and one of them is tuna fish. And of course, wisdom always comes from the mouth of that famous radio telecomedian, Dr. Gene Scott, who recently uttered on WWCR, some people won't go to the toilet unless they put it on their calendar 3 months ahead of time. And what the hell is all this stir about Bougainville? Bougainville is a special place in the Pacific as part of the Solomon Islands. Over the past year or so, at least 732 different revolutionary and counter-revolutionary stations have been reported broadcasting between 3,800 and 4,000 kilohertz. No doubt on old garage sale Heathkit. A recent Associated Press story says that 7 heavily armed, uniformed men on a small boat off the coast of Bougainville fired on the French liner Club Med 2. They sailed off and the captain ignored them. All that actual stuff today comes from an article in Old Bram's hometown newspaper, which shall remain nameless. It seems that Kimberly Clark, a well-known paper product maker, has developed artificial species to test diapers. Seems that technicians didn't care for the real thing, and materials such as peanut butter just didn't quite cut it. Kimberly Clark is planning on patenting the stuff. Do you suppose they'll put it on the open market for general consumption? What kind of a store would you go to get some artificial shit? This development has ominous overtones to the pirate radio industry. The mere existence of artificial turds throws a whole new light on the recent radio spam UFL sent around the world. Have you noticed that the actual stuff segment on this program seems to be getting longer and longer? Do you suppose that the real world is weirder than the shit you folks send in and the shit that I make up? This is Radio Azteca, the station with more than 144 in a gross. If you're just joining us, where the hell you been? The program's over half over. Twang that thing bling. As promised, I hold in my hand tonight's top 10 list, contributed from the fertile mind of faithful listener Marianne Kehoe from Georgia. Marianne's list is the top 10 calls received on the Radio Netherlands answer line. Here we go. Number 10. If you are in management, you still have a job. If you're an on-air personality, press 2 to see if you're still employed. Number 9. This is Dick and Ed. You may have won $10 million. Number 8. Jonathan Marks. This is the Prize Patrol, and we can't find your house. Number 7. This is not the Happy Station. Number 6. Tonight's winning lotto numbers are... Number 5. This is Jonathan. I can't come to the phone now because I'm the only one left working here. Number 4. Thank you for calling Budget Cuts Are Us. Number 3. For a good time, call 1-900-HILVERSOME. Ask for Jonathan. Number 2. Thank you for calling Radio Netherlands, an equal opportunity employer. Not. And the number 1 call received on Radio Netherlands answer line is... Hello, Jonathan. This is Ian in Montreal. Any job? Radio Azteca, nobody does the balls to say it like we do. time for another visit from Dr. Radio. Dr. Radio answers all your questions about radio, DXing, bodily functions, and why manual dexterity is required on DXpeditions.
What do you do with all the letters you don't use of your famous radio program?
Well, we crumple them up till they're very soft, tape them together, roll them up on a cardboard roll, and hang them on the outhouse wall. Speaking of that, where the hell is Radio Outhouse? We want more, and we want a QSL. Where the hell is the Voices Shake Rig? We want more. I don't know for sure, but this is having some sort of effect on me, guys. Dr. Radio actually has enough stuff sent in by you good folks to keep from having to use any of the silly shit that I make up. But then again, we wouldn't want to mess with tradition. Our first letter today comes from Ms. Labia Splittorf of Cripple Creek, Delaware. Labia asks, why don't they make tube radios anymore? Labia, you're dating yourself. Come to think of it, that must eliminate many of those delicate moments. By dating yourself, that is. But Dr. Radio digresses.
He's not a real doctor.
Well, that could explain some things. About 20 yeyears ago, a DXer who also happened to work for the U.S. Department of Defense was cleaning up one of the secret rooms and knocked an old tube radio off the table. In cleaning up the mess, he cut himself badly and bled to death. After a thorough investigation costing millions of taxpayer dollars, it was concluded that using glass tubes was inherently dangerous and that the substance ought to be banned. Congress then directed the EPA to promulgate laws banning the use of glass. Since that landmark legislation, hazardous glass components have now all been replaced by items made from selenium, arsenic, beryllium, germanium, and gallium. When's the last time you heard about someone bleeding to death on a sliver of those things? The law did grandfather already existing tube sets, but there is a mandatory 5-day wait for a character check before you can take possession. A disgruntled EPA spokesman said that they were not at all pleased even with this compromise plan and stated,
I want all privately owned radios to be immediately impounded.
where have I heard that before? Our next letter comes from Rebecca Wolfish of Stephanie, Alberta. Rebecca wants to know, what is the most exotic QSL we've ever seen? Well, Rebecca, I've not actually seen them, but I understand that among Hank Holbrook's vast collection are at least 4 full-data QSLs from neighbors using Mr. Microphones. We kind of doubt that story, but there's another that Patrick Martin has a QSL signed by G. Gordon Liddy from a Watergate bug. All of those sure beat the hell out of my best one, a signed Kristen K. Garage Door Opener QSL. However, it doesn't beat photographs she sent with it of her riding a sawhorse in the garage while screaming.
I don't want my picture taken.
And of course, we still have a passel of unanswered questions from that French-Canadian flash, Jean-Guy Pepsi. John asks, why does my radio need an antenna? What goes in that hole in the back of my radio marked antenna? We've come to the conclusion here that Jean-Guy has an insertion fixation, and certainly hope that he replies to our request to send us a picture of the thing he'd most like to have in his mouth while DXing. But Dr. Radio digresses.
Well, this is typical of the babbling of a PhD.
The answer to your first question is simple. You need an antenna because they stopped making aerials a long time ago. As to what goes into that hole in the back of your radio, forget it. Look for the hole in the front. There's much more DXing pleasure there. Franz Bergman of Whitehall, Wisconsin asks, my long wire keeps slipping and getting low, short, and limp. Hence, I can't get any DX. Should I see a doctor about this? Well, Franz, we're all certainly glad you brought this problem to Dr. Radio. It's long been known in the DX community that to keep from developing dreaded antenna droop, you need to stroke your antenna frequently. This also helps prevent premature attenuation. Just so we don't take too long to cover Franz's list of questions, we'll deal with another one right now. Just what's so damn disgusting about the spam radio's QSL that made everyone complain? Franz, we're just as befuddled as you on this. The only thing that we can think of are that everybody gets QSL number 1, or that one of those pickles is going to waste on the hungry gentleman's neck. Neil Wolfish asks, what does blazing saddles have to do with Aztec culture?
Never mind that. Here comes Mongo.
Neil, need we say more? To To keep us from having to use John D's dozen or so remaining questions next time, appropriate for program number 13, though, send us your hard-hitting, semi-tasteless, DX really explicit questions to Dr. Radio in care of the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, Magna, Kansas. This is Radio Azteca, the beacon of truth for the DX hobby. You think this stuff is easy? Just listen to this. Esta es Radio Azteca, su estación para todos. Esta es Radio Azteca, su estación para todos que... Jesus Christ. Para grueso, pero holy shit, we ain't got a big deal about that. Since that landmark legislation, the hazardous glass component is now Since that landmark legislation, the hazardous glass components have now all been replaced. Those all sure beat the hell out of my best one, a fine Kristen K garage door QSL. A fine Kristen K garage door opener QSL. Bringing program number 12 to a close. We hope you had half the fun that the whole crew here at Radio Azteca Studios had in putting it together. We've already started getting ready for program number 13.
Oh, it will be exciting.
Yes, about as exciting as a big wet one in the bathtub. If you feel the urge, by all means, do it. If you want a Radio Azteca QSL, send your extensively annotated program notes, 3-mint stamps, and a jar of strawberry-flavored Vaseline to DVS Communications, Post Office Box 452, Wellsville, New York, 14895. Please allow 6 weeks delivery if you ordered Model D. Until next time, this is Bram Stoker with this piece of valuable advice. Never kick a fresh turd on a hot day.
You have been listening to the All Azteca Relay Service, the AARS, All Azteca Relay Service, Radio Azteca Marathon Show number 4, featuring shows 10, 11, and 12. This is the AARS, the All Azteca Relay Service. For QSL, write to All Azteca Relay Service at gmail.com. That's All Azteca Relay Service at gmail.com. 73 and good DX.